My name is Alina. I turned 18 last month. In the village where I was born, that number means many things, but mostly it means you're ready to marry. For generations, girls in my town have grown up knowing that love isn't something you find, it's something your parents decide. And so, when my mother told me that a proposal had come, I didn't cry, I didn't argue, I only asked one question. Is he kind? She smiled, her eyes soft with pride and hope. They say he is a good man, she said. And I believed her, because my mother's faith has always been my compass. But when night came and I lay alone on my bed, I felt a weight pressing on my chest. Not fear of a man, but fear of losing the girl I was, the girl who used to draw in the dust with a stick, who dreamed of painting skies, not decorating bridal veils. The days that followed were filled with noise, laughter, colors, and preparations. Every room in our home smelled of henna and jasmine. Relatives came and went with stories, songs, and advice I didn't want, but couldn't refuse. Smile more, they said. Don't talk too much. Be patient. Men like calm wives. I nodded, because that's what good daughters do. But inside, my heart was whispering questions no one could hear. What if I can't love him? What if he doesn't see me? Not just my face, but my heart. The wedding day arrived like a storm. Red and gold surrounded me. Drums echoed through the streets. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see myself. I saw a story someone else had written for me. Still, I smiled for the photographs, for my parents, for everyone who believed this was my destiny. But when the moment came to leave my home, my mother crying, my father looking away so I wouldn't see his tears, I felt my childhood slipping from my hands like sand in a fist. I didn't know then that goodbyes aren't just to people. Sometimes they're to versions of ourselves we'll never be again. When we reached his house, my new home, the lights were soft, the air full of rose petals and whispers. His family welcomed me with smiles, sweets, and blessings. But every kind word felt heavy, as if I was being wrapped in expectations I wasn't ready to wear. And then finally, everyone left. The laughter faded, the doors closed, the house fell silent. It was just me and the sound of my heartbeat. The door to the room opened. I didn't look up right away. My hands were clasped tightly on my lap. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. I could feel him before I saw him. My husband. The man I was now meant to live beside, sleep beside, build a life with. A stranger with my name tied to his. He sat down on the edge of the bed, not too close, not too far. For a few moments, there was only silence. Then he spoke, his voice calm and almost uncertain. Hey, Elena, I know this is not easy for you. It's not easy for me either. I just wanted you to know, you don't have to be afraid. I won't force anything. Let's just talk first. Something in his tone, soft, trembling, honest, broke through the storm in my chest. I looked up. His eyes weren't searching, demanding, or expectant. They were nervous, like mine. He smiled a little, almost shyly, and offered me a glass of water. Here, he said, you must be tired. Our fingers brushed for a second, a small touch, a quiet spark. I felt my cheeks flush. He noticed and laughed gently. You don't have to be so scared, he said. I'm not going to bite. A tiny smile escaped my lips before I could stop it. And that single smile changed the air in the room. He began to talk, not about us, not about expectations, but about ordinary things. How nervous he was when his friends teased him before coming to the room. How he had no idea what to say and even considered pretending to fall asleep. His honesty made me laugh softly. It wasn't the laugh of a bride, it was the laugh of a girl remembering what it felt like to breathe. Bit by bit, the walls between us began to lower. "Can I hold your hand?" he asked suddenly, his voice almost a whisper. I didn't speak. I only nodded. He reached out slowly, as if approaching a frightened bird. His hand wrapped around mine, warm, firm, but gentle. He didn't squeeze. He didn't pull me closer. He just held my hand like it was something precious. I looked down at our hands and felt something shift inside me. Fear was still there, but beside it, a small seed of trust began to grow. After a while, he said softly, "Elena, I want you to feel safe with me. That's all. We have our whole lives. Let tonight just be the beginning." And in that moment, the tears I had been holding back finally came. He didn't ask why. He didn't try to stop them. He simply lifted his hand and brushed my tears away with the edge of his thumb. His touch was so careful, so respectful, that it felt like he was handling something sacred. He leaned forward and kissed my forehead, not out of right, but out of care. That kiss felt like a promise, silent, warm, and real. He lay down beside me, leaving enough space so I could breathe. The light in the room was soft, golden, like dawn. After a while, he asked, "Do you want to tell me something about yourself?" I blinked, surprised. No one had asked me that all day. "I like drawing," I said quietly. "When I was in school, I used to fill my notebooks with sketches." He smiled. "I wish I could have seen them. Maybe you would have drawn me too." That made me laugh again. This time, a real laugh. He looked at me like laughter itself was a kind of miracle. He started telling me about his own life. Small, funny things. How he once burned noodles trying to cook. How his mother still calls him his baby. How he hates thunderstorms but pretends not to. And as he spoke, his voice became the safest sound I'd ever known. We talked until our words started to blend with silence, the comfortable kind that doesn't need filling. Then he asked quietly, "Can I hold you? Only if you want to." For a moment, I didn't move. Then I nodded. He shifted closer, wrapping one arm gently around me. My head rested against his chest. His heart beat steady, calm, human. For the first time in weeks, my body relaxed. The world didn't feel strange anymore. It felt like home. He didn't say much after that. His hand moved slowly over my back, not in desire, but in reassurance. And in that silence, I learned something no one had ever taught me, that love isn't proven by urgency, it's revealed in patience. He whispered softly, "Tonight isn't about being husband and wife. It's about being two people who choose to care." And just like that, my fear dissolved. Not completely, but enough for me to breathe again. I lifted my head, looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the gentleness I had always dreamed of. Without thinking, I leaned forward and kissed his cheek. He smiled, then asked, "Can I kiss you?" I nodded. His lips met mine, softly, slowly, and the world grew still. It wasn't about passion, it was about peace. And in that peace, I felt myself beginning to trust again. We didn't rush. We laughed when things felt awkward. We paused when we didn't know what to do. He kept asking, "Is this okay?" And each time I said yes, my heart felt lighter. When we finally fell asleep, Dawn had started to touch the sky. My head rested on his chest, his hand on mine. Before I closed my eyes, I whispered, "Thank you." He said softly, "You never have to thank me for being gentle. It's what you deserve." And that was the moment I realized I hadn't just married a man. I had met someone who understood love the way I always believed it should be. Slow, kind, and full of grace. I woke to the sound of birds. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. The room was quiet, golden light filtering through the curtains. Then I felt his arm around me. Steady, safe, familiar now. His chest rose and fell under my cheek, and I listened to that rhythm, the soft, human sound that had kept me grounded through the night. I didn't want to move. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel the need to be strong or brave or polite. I just wanted to be. When I finally opened my eyes, he was already awake. His gaze met mine, calm and warm. "Good morning," he said, his voice low and kind. "Good morning," I whispered. He smiled. "You looked peaceful while you slept." I blushed a little. The shyness was still there, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was sweet. We lay like that for a few minutes, two people breathing in sync, surrounded by sunlight and silence. When we finally got up, he showed me around the house. "This is the kitchen," he said, opening the door as if showing me something sacred. "And this is where my mother hides all the sweets." I laughed softly. He smiled at the sound as if each laugh made him lighter too. When we entered the kitchen, his mother was already there, making tea. She looked at me with gentle eyes. "How was the first night, Beta?" she asked, her tone teasing but kind. I felt my cheeks turn warm. It was kind," I said. She smiled knowingly. Maybe she saw the peace on my face. Maybe she didn't need words. Days turned into weeks, and each day I learned something new. Not just about him, but about what it means to be seen. He never stopped asking, "Are you okay?" Not out of doubt, but out of care. Sometimes we talked for hours. Sometimes we sat in silence, letting the quiet fill the spaces words couldn't reach. He taught me where everything was kept, what time his mother liked her tea, and how to water the little plants by the window. In return, I showed him how to draw. One evening, I was sitting with my sketchbook, tracing the curve of a leaf, when he came and sat beside me. "Can you draw me?" he asked. I looked up, smiling. "Only if you promise not to laugh." He promised, raising his hand like a boy making an oath. As I drew, he stayed still, but his eyes watched me, not the paper. When I was done, he leaned over to see it. The drawing wasn't perfect. His hair was uneven, his jaw slightly crooked. But he smiled as if it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "You made me look better than I am," he said. "No," I replied. "I just drew you the way I see you." He didn't answer. He just looked at me quietly. And in that look, I saw gratitude. Some nights, we stayed up late talking about life before we met. He told me how he used to sit under the old neem tree near his house when he was sad, how he dreamed of becoming a teacher. I told him how I once wanted to study art, how I'd paint on my school notebooks because real canvases were too expensive. He listened like my words were something precious, something worth keeping safe. "Why did you stop drawing?" he asked. I guess I grew up, I said, and dreams don't always grow with you. He was silent for a moment, then said quietly, maybe some dreams just need new soil. That night, after I fell asleep, he placed a new sketchbook beside my pillow. When I woke and saw it, tears filled my eyes. He had written on the first page, "For Elena, may your hands never forget how to dream." I didn't say anything. I just hugged him, and for the first time, I felt love not as something that takes, but as something that gives. Our marriage wasn't perfect. There were days of misunderstanding, small arguments over silly things, moments when silence felt longer than usual. But even then, respect never left the room. Once, after a fight, I went to the balcony to cry. I thought he'd be angry, that he'd let the silence grow colder. But instead, he came and sat beside me. He didn't ask me to stop crying. He didn't try to fix everything. He just sat, quiet, patient, and after a while said, "You don't have to be okay all the time. You can break a little. I'll wait while you put yourself back together." That's when I realized love isn't measured by how many times you laugh together. It's measured by how you hold each other in silence when laughter is far away. A month after our wedding, I asked him something that had been sitting in my heart since the first night. "Were you scared that night?" He looked at me, surprised, then smiled softly. "Terrified," he said. "I didn't know how to make you feel safe. I just knew that was the most important thing." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you already had enough to feel. I didn't want to add my fear to yours." He reached out and took my hand, the same hand he had held that first night, and said quietly, "I wasn't sure I would be a good husband, but I knew I wanted to be a kind one." Those words stayed with me because kindness, I realized, is the seed from which every kind of love grows. As the months passed, I started to find my voice again. I began painting on weekends. He would watch, sometimes sitting beside me with tea, sometimes reading quietly when I worked. Once, he asked if he could paint too. I gave him a brush. He dipped it in blue and made a messy line across the paper. "It's awful," he said, laughing. "No," I said, "it's honest." He looked at me with mock seriousness. "Then I'll be your worst, most honest student." That became our ritual. Sunday evenings, paint-stained fingers, and laughter echoing through the small room that had once been silent. Love didn't arrive in grand gestures. It came in small, steady things. The way he waited for me to start eating, the way he made sure my slippers were near the bed, the way he still asked, "Are you okay?" even when he already knew the answer. And slowly, I learned to do the same for him. To notice when his shoulders slumped after a long day. To listen when he didn't want to talk but needed to be heard anyway. To reach for his hand in the dark, not because I was scared, but because I wanted him to know he wasn't alone either. One evening, as we sat watching the sunset, he said to me, "You've changed, Elena." I smiled. "How so?" He said softly, "You used to be afraid of everything. Now you look at the world like it belongs to you." I looked at him and said, "Maybe because someone taught me that being gentle doesn't mean being weak." He turned to me, eyes full of quiet pride. "And you taught me that being strong doesn't mean being hard." Years later, when I think of that first night, I don't remember the fear or the noise of the wedding. I remember the water glass in his hand, the nervous smile, the way he said, "Let's just talk first." Because that's when love began, not with a touch, but with understanding, not with desire, but with respect. Now, when young girls ask me about marriage, about that first night they've heard so many stories about, I tell them this: your first night isn't a test of courage. It's an invitation to trust. You don't owe your body to anyone. You owe your heart to yourself. And only someone who respects that deserves to share your life. I tell them, if he's the right man, he will wait. If he truly loves you, he will make space for your silence, your fear, your laughter, all of you. Because love doesn't rush, it learns. Sometimes people say I was lucky, but I don't think it was luck. It was choice. His choice to be kind, my choice to open up, and our choice to build something gentle in a world that often confuses loudness with love. Every night, when I see him sleeping beside me, his hand still loosely holding mine, I whisper a small prayer, not of thanks for perfection, but for patience. Because patience, I've learned, is the heartbeat of true love. And that night, the night that began with fear, became the foundation of everything I now call home. When I paint now, I sometimes draw that night. Not the faces, not the flowers, but the feeling. Soft light, two hands touching. A single word written in the corner of the page. Safe. Because that's what love should be. Not grand, not dramatic, just safe. And that is how I learned that the strongest kind of love isn't the one that burns, it's the one that heals.